Wife went to a spa place for the weekend, turns out the spa place was. Part 2. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. I googled the number and up came a local garage, one where she had got her car fixed previously. I remembered it taking a while for it to get fixed and her complaining about it a lot. The whole thing was a long drawn out affair, in more ways than one apparently. At this point I was ice cold. I already had got it into my head she was having an affair, so getting it confirmed was more of a relief than anything else. I wanted to catch her in the act, rather than have her attempt to gaslight me and squirm out of the circumstance, so I found out everything I could about this guy. I found out where he lived, that he had a young wife and child, found out what car he drove, even walked in asking about prices so I could look this guy in the eye and get a measure of him. His name was Carl with a K. I knew the affair was physical for lots of reasons, but the fact that their phone calls and texts stopped dead from 1 to 2 each day said to me that was the time they were meeting up. I came up with all sorts of silly plans, to loan my friend's car and sit at the end of the street, then wait till she drove out, then follow her to the place she was meeting this guy and jump out the car while they were in the act like surprise motherfucker. There were too many variables in that though, and I'm no private detective. One day I decided to drive by his garage about 1:30 and her car was just sitting there, and the place was locked up, so mystery solved. I was at this point at the end of my tether, and ready to just tell her that I knew everything and get the fuck out my house, when she asked if it would be okay to go away to a spa place for the weekend, alone. She said she was depressed with everything with her back being so much worse, that this place would be great to help with all the things she could do. That she could come back refreshed and like a new person. She was right about that, 'cause I didn't know who the fuck this was standing in front of me anymore. Obviously she wasn't going there alone, if she was even going there at all. This would be a dirty weekend away with this guy. I said fine, now I had a new plan, and this would be the last fucking thing I'd do for her. If you're thinking this is all too much of a kerfuffle, then you're right obviously, but my position is I wanted revenge, and I wanted to get her back with some style. I didn't just want to have her cry it and gaslight me for days, then leave on her terms, with me the bad guy. I would be the bad guy but it would be my terms she'd be leaving on alright. Friday came and the spa was 100 or so miles down the road so she decided to get a train. I jokingly asked her if she couldn't find something more local, umming and ahhing followed till I told her I was only kidding. I got off work a couple of hours early and took her into the train station, despite her protests she would get a taxi, as I wanted to see her off. We drive in and as I'm looking for a place to park you wouldn't guess whose car I spot? That's right, Carl with a K. I think fuck it I'm gonna have some fun and make her squirm so I park up directly next to him. They're right next to each other door to door and she immediately becomes uneasy, not knowing where to look. I'm pretending to look for something trying to draw out the moment and the atmosphere is razor sharp at that point. What happened next genuinely caused me to do something out with my plan. She started to silently giggle. You know when you go to church or someone dies or you go to church 'cause someone dies and something funny pops into your head. And it becomes mental torture desperately trying to think of something else and stop yourself from laughing maniacally? Well she's desperately trying not to laugh, I'm pretending not to notice, she's tapping her hand on her trouser leg and from the corner of my eye I can see him, with his head on the fucking steering wheel. She actually lets out a laugh then quickly disguises it as a cough and starts clearing her throat. I start doing the whole tapping of back thing and I'm just thinking to myself, I can't wait to get you back. See we all go through life being the butt of the joke at least once, whether it be passive-aggressive work colleagues or when you get up and try and do a talk at school with a face redder than the devil himself. But you never expect that shit from people who are supposed to have your back, even if you are conspiring against them at that point. I helped her into the train station with her things, made sure she had her bearings, said goodbye and walked away. By the time I got out, Carl with a K's car was nowhere to be seen, so I went back home, composed myself and carried out my plan. My plan was simple but effective. I started by having a locksmith come out to change the locks. I then proceeded to pack all of her clothes and belongings into bin bags and put it round the side of the house. On Friday night, with the noise of her laughing at me ringing in my ears I did something I never imagined I could do. I took Mitzi's litter tray, walked round the side of the house with it, opened the bin bag with Sarah's belongings in it and threw it in, gave the bag a good shake then tied it up again. The way I saw it at the time was that it's cause and effect in action. She caused me to effectively put cat shit in with her things. If you're thinking I'm an asshole then you're probably right, I'll never win any awards for being the nicest neighbor on the block. If I don't like you within 5 minutes of meeting you I probably never will, and the only time I'd ever take out your trash is if you are the trash. If you do break through those barriers, though, I think I am a loyal, caring person. I didn't do anything to deserve being cheated on, except maybe putting cat litter in with her things, but that was after the fact. I spent the Saturday in a mire of depression, answering her texts with the only energy I could muster, which wasn't a lot. I complained of a severe headache from a hangover I never had, and the text dwindled. The reality of what was transpiring hit home, and for the first time since before New Year I took stock of my life, sitting in my swivel armchair with Mitzi and Toe like a fucking Bond villain. Sunday came and I was ready to execute the final part of my plan. Firstly, I drove to Carl with a case house and put a letter through his door. It was addressed to his wife and basically said in block capitals, "Important Carl," with AK's wife's name open immediately. Inside it was a letter outlining how her husband was having an affair with my girlfriend, copies of her phone calls and text log, as well as other information like that they were away together this weekend. I put it through the door, rang the doorbell and walked away. Got in my car and drove for a minute, then parked up again, then I phoned Sarah. I genuinely can't remember a lot of what I said to her, but it was something along the lines of me asking how everything was going. She started to gush about how much she enjoyed herself, that she feels like a new woman, and that she could maybe see herself doing it 2 or 3 times a year, to blow off the cobwebs, certainly to blow something. At this point I blurted out, "How's Carl?" Her yapping stops dead, silence fills the air until she finally says, "Who's Carl?" I reply, "Carl, with a K." I then proceeded to tell her that I knew everything, that I'd changed the locks and all her stuff was round the side of the house. Instead of being apologetic, she goes on a thunderous diatribe, blaming me for everything, basically stabbing me in the back while complaining that my backbone was blunting her blade. At the end I told her how her stuff smelled of Mitzi's poo and hung up. I blocked her number and didn't see hide nor hair of her until the Wednesday. When I came back from work, she was sitting on the doorstep, all the bags had been moved. I ignored her, walked round the back, let myself in the back door and locked it behind me. Haven't spoken to her since, although she's made her attempts, including a letter. In regards to Carl with a K, I don't know what happened between him and his wife. I do know that he said it wasn't personal to a friend of mine. That made me angry, like, is that supposed to make it better? Someone saying something isn't personal just means it isn't personal to them. It was to me. If someone smashes through your front room in a 4x4 obliterating everyone you've ever loved, is it easier to get over if they didn't personally mean it? Is it easier to pick up the pieces and put them back together again? No. I heard that COVID hasn't been kind to his business though, but you won't catch me shedding no tears for that, unless it's tears of laughter, that is. Update end. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.